The 2023 NFL Draft is less than a week away, so I'm going to update my last mock draft to reflect the new realities. My goal here isn't to rehash every other consensus mock draft. Rather, I want to provide you with unusual but plausible picks for most of the teams. I want my mocks to reflect the chaos that always happens on draft night. I will not, however, shy away from making safe picks if I think they make sense. There are also numerous trades in this mock, although notably none in the top 5. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe and leave a comment to let me know what you thought about your team's pick. Alright, let's get started. As much as I like to play around with different scenarios when I make a mock draft, as of right now, quarterback Bryce Young out of Alabama is the massive favorite to go number 1 overall, and I don't like betting against Vegas insiders. Bryce Young is an odd pick for head coach Frank Reich, who has only coached taller quarterbacks, but Young has great pocket presence, anticipation on his throws, and overall creativity. He is certainly a worthy first overall pick, even if his lack of size makes him a somewhat risky one. The buzz going around right now regarding the Texans is that if Bryce Young isn't available for them, they might pass on a quarterback. If they do so, they could take Will Anderson Jr., but I think they go for the high upside pick and edge defender Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech. Wilson has superior strength, length, and size to Anderson, so even if he wasn't as productive in college, NFL teams will probably see him as a better fit for the next level. Anderson just isn't as sexy a pick anymore, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him fall on draft night. Alright, this pick for the Cardinals at 3rd overall is going to turn some heads. I'm not sure that this pick gets traded at the end of the day. Teams reportedly believe they can get their preferred quarterback by waiting instead of trading up. If a trade does happen, it will probably be to number 2 overall because the Texans are reportedly shopping the pick. I have the Cardinals staying put and taking cornerback Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois. The Cardinals' top cornerback currently is Marco Wilson, who has shown some good stuff, but he's a true number 2, whereas Devin Witherspoon has the instincts to be one of the top cornerbacks in the game. That brings up the Colts at 4th overall, who get their preferred quarterback. I have them taking Will Levis out of Kentucky. Vegas insiders have quietly been raising the odds Levis gets drafted high as opposed to Stroud. Both make sense for the Colts as they apparently want a quarterback who can start right away, which makes sense as general manager Chris Ballard is definitely on the hot seat this season. The Colts sent their entire scouting department to Levis's pro day, signaling their interest. Levis has a big arm, but needs to work on not eating bananas with the peel on. The Seahawks have Geno Smith under contract for a few years, but his contract is structured in such a way as to give them an out after 1 year. They are a team with a lot of young talent, so they shouldn't be drafting this high again anytime soon. So I have the Seahawks taking quarterback Anthony Richardson out of Florida. This might be wishful thinking on my part as a big Richardson stan, but the Seahawks have had him in the top 30 visit, so there is some interest there. Most teams seem to think Richardson needs a year to sit and season, and he would get it in Seattle. Here at 6th overall, we have our first projected trade. The Eagles have 3 first-round picks last year and traded all of them, and I think they have a target in mind here. Defensive tackle Jalen Carter out of Georgia is very confident he won't fall out of the top 10, and I think that's because he's heard it through an intermediary from the Eagles. If the Eagles want him, they will probably need to trade up because even with his off-field troubles, Carter is widely regarded as the most talented player in this class. I'm sure Howie Roseman is salivating at the thought of adding him to the defensive line. The question for the Raiders at 7th overall is whether or not they want the falling CJ Stroud. Possibly, but I think Josh McDaniels is satisfied with the quarterback room of Jimmy G and Brian Hoyer. Despite it really not being a position of need, the value of edge defender Will Anderson Jr. out of Alabama is difficult to pass up. Chandler Jones is nearing the end of his career, so Anderson could be his replacement on the defensive line. In the meantime, Anderson is light enough to be a stand-up linebacker for them. If CJ Stroud does make it past the Raiders at 7, I think that's when teams might start to consider trading up for him. One quarterback needy team is the Buccaneers, who trade up in the scenario with the Falcons to take Stroud. Stroud is considered a safe pick, but if Anthony Richardson starts to fall instead, I expect the Buccaneers to consider trading up for him too. There's a decent chance Stroud can beat out Baker Mayfield to be the starter right away. The Bears are another trade-back candidate, but with all the top quarterbacks off the board, I couldn't find them a trade partner here. Instead, they need to invest in the offensive line to make sure Justin Fields continues to develop. There's a lot of debate on this, but I think tackle Broderick Jones out of Georgia will be the first one off the board, for the same reason as Tyree Wilson. This is the guy with all of the tools to be a high-end starter at the next level. Other guys are considered safer picks, but Jones has all-pro upside, and that's the kind of thing that gets NFL teams excited. The Lions may have invested at cornerback in free agency, but Emmanuel Mosley is coming off an ACL tear and is only on a one-year contract anyway. If the board falls this way, I think they take Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon. Gonzalez is another high upside pick, being a built-in-the-lab prototypical type player with ideal size and speed to play the position. Whether he has the motor necessary to not just thrive, but survive at the next level has yet to be discovered. We have a number of teams in a row, from the Bears to the Patriots, who all need offensive line help, but the Titans are probably in the worst spot of all of them. A cursory glance at their depth chart reveals a severe lack of talent across the line. Tackle Darnell Wright out of Tennessee has been enjoying a meteoric rise up draft boards in the last few weeks, and with good reason. He's so big and powerful that when he gets his hands on an opposing defender, the rep is as good as over. This pick will make Derrick Henry's life much easier, assuming he is still around next year. The Texans are the only team from 9 to 14 who really don't need offensive line help, making them an ideal trade-back candidate for any team that wants to grab a top-flight tackle before the top ones are all gone. I think this is likely pretty much regardless of which tackle is still available. I have the Steelers trading up to grab Paris Johnson Jr. out of Ohio State. Johnson played at several positions on the offensive line, so the Steelers have the flexibility to move him around wherever they see fit. The Jets in this scenario have missed out on all of the top tackle prospects, but should be able to grab the best guard. Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern is the pick here. Even though he played tackle in college, due to his short arms, most teams will see him as a guard at the next level. The Jets have invested some top picks at tackle in the last few years anyway, so Skoronski gives Aaron Rodgers the protection he needs to really thrive whenever the trade for him actually takes place. Now, there are three certainties in life: death, taxes, and the Patriots trading back in the draft. Here I have them trading back with the Ravens. This could prove difficult as the Ravens don't have a second-round pick this year, but Bill Belichick is always willing to accept future assets. The Ravens would make this trade for the same reason they signed Odell Beckham Jr. They are desperate to tempt Lamar back to Baltimore. Lamar has likely been less than impressed with the receiving options the Ravens have given him over the years, but if they take Jackson Smith-Njigba out of Ohio State, that could prove to Lamar that they are willing to give him the talent he needs to thrive. I think we all know the Packers at 15 should take an offensive weapon to help new quarterback Jordan Love, but we also all know there's no way in hell they actually do it, especially if edge defender Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa falls to them. Not only does he fill a need, as the only good edge rusher the Packers have is Rashawn Gary, and not only does he fit the Packers' profile of preferring to draft for size, but he's the perfect scheme fit, being the ideal size to play 5-tech in the Packers' defense. The Commanders need cornerback help badly. Kendall Fuller is okay, but not a number one. Their only free agent signing, Dantzler, is just a one-year flyer. Here I have them taking cornerback Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State. As long as Ron Rivera can get him to rein in his propensity for penalties, he has ideal size and length to be a great press-man cornerback. The Texans now have the 17th pick, and with needs all over, I can see them continually trading back so long as they have partners to do so with. The Chargers trade up here to fill a new need with Austin Eckler wanting a trade. They take running back Bijan Robinson out of Texas. It wouldn't surprise me either to see Eckler be part of any deal that the Chargers might use to trade up, and if that's all it costs to move up 4 spots, it would be worth it to essentially trade Eckler for Bijan. The Lions with the 18th pick currently have plenty of depth along the defensive line. However, Romeo Okwara and Charles Harris are entering the final year of their deals. Getting ahead of that, I have the Lions grabbing edge defender Myles Murphy out of Clemson. He's already a great run defender, and if he can develop his pass rushing abilities, him and Aiden Hutchinson could make a deadly 1-2 punch. The Falcons now have the 19th pick, and here a player they have been connected to at 8th overall has still managed to fall into their laps. It's easy to see why Atlanta would like edge defender Nolan Smith out of Georgia. He's an ideal fit to play off-ball linebacker in their 3-4 scheme, and he's already a dominant run defender and cover guy, even though he is undersized. His pass rush has plenty of potential, but needs development. He's also considered a high character guy, so he has that going for him too, which is nice. Here at 20, I'm projecting another trade. The Bills have been rumored to be looking into trading up, and we all know how much Seattle loves to trade down. The Bills' biggest need is on the offensive line, and the last really good one might be gone by the next time they pick, so they're taking tackle Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma. Harrison is more of a pass blocker than a run blocker, which is perfect since the Bills' offense literally runs through their passing game. The Texans, whenever and however they get their quarterback, whoever that might be, need to have players for him to throw to. New tight end Dalton Schultz is a start, but after trading away Brandon Cooks, they definitely need a wide receiver. It sure seems like Zay Flowers out of Boston College is the consensus number 2 receiver after Smith-Njigba, but I could see this pick being Quentin Johnston as well. Flowers is smaller, but he is the superior route runner and is better at the catch point, so he gets the nod here. Whoever the Patriots pick is almost certainly going to be a shocker. I have them going cornerback here, which is unsurprising. But what is surprising is that it's not Deonte Banks, it's Tyreek Stevenson out of Miami. Banks is more scheme dependent, he needs to go to a cover 3 scheme, whereas the Patriots are always trying to run press man. Stevenson is just a better scheme fit for the Patriots. This would probably be a reach, but Belichick has never cared about other people's evaluations anyway. The Vikings currently have 5 picks in the entire draft, making them an ideal trade-back candidate. The Cowboys want to make sure they get their guy at tight end, so I have them trading up for Dalton Kincaid out of Utah. Kincaid has drawn comparisons to Travis Kelce, which is almost certainly hyperbole, but when you see Kincaid's pass-catching prowess, it makes sense. He doesn't offer much as a blocker though, so I also wouldn't be surprised to see the Cowboys take Michael Mayer, but Kincaid is much higher on most people's boards. No Jacksonville player has recorded more than 8 sacks since 2019. The Jaguars have a good starting duo at defensive end, but Josh Allen is entering the last year of his rookie deal, and it's no guarantee he gets re-signed next season. Edge defender BJ Ojulari out of LSU is one of the most underrated players in this draft, and a player I'm confident will go in the first round. His best position is probably defensive end, but he has the versatility to play linebacker for the Jaguars next season. After letting Julian Love walk in free agency, the Giants need help at safety. Brian Branch out of Alabama played a similar role for the Crimson Tide that Love played for the Giants, making this a perfect fit. Branch might be the best tackler in the draft too, and poor tackling was a big part of the reason the Giants got blown out by the Eagles in the divisional round last year. The Vikings currently have 4 defensive tackles who will be free agents next year. Getting ahead of this problem, I have them taking defensive tackle Brian Brzee out of Clemson. Aside from injury concerns, Brzee would be an immediate impact player, assuming he can improve his pass rushing plan making. He could be a top 10 player in this class, making this a great value pick. Earlier, I called Deonte Banks a scheme-dependent player. Here at 27, the Seahawks run exactly the system that would be perfect for him. With the Seahawks scheme, he can keep the play in front of him, playing to all his strengths as a player. Pairing Banks with Tariq Woolen would be one way to revive the Legion of Boom. The Bengals lost Samaje Perine in free agency, and Joe Mixon is due quite a lot of money, even though he is getting quite long in the tooth. So here the Bengals grab running back Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama. He has great start and stop ability and is a great asset in the passing game. He can fill the Perine role for the Bengals right away and potentially get first and second down duties after Mixon leaves. The Saints have invested heavily in the defensive line over the years, although none of those investments have really worked out. Marcus Davenport was very good for them, but he's gone now, and more depth is needed. The best value is probably defensive tackle Calijah Kancey out of Pittsburgh. Kancey is difficult to evaluate, being way too small for his position, but his off-the-charts production in college makes him worth the risk in the first round. For the Eagles, it's important to note that they love investing in the trenches, which is especially pertinent this year as we don't know if Lane Johnson and or Jason Kelce are going to retire at the end of the season. Tackle Matthew Bergeron out of Syracuse has a lot of positional versatility and could fill whatever hole in the line the Eagles need plugged when those guys ride off into the sunset. And that brings us to the final pick and the final trade. Hendon Hooker is widely regarded as a first-round pick now, even with his age, injury concerns, and lack of experience in a pro-style offense. I admit it, I don't get it, but a team is likely to take him in the first, so they can get the fifth-year option on him. The Titans in this scenario were unwilling to trade as much draft capital as they had to move into the top 5, but trading to the last pick in the first would require much less investment. Hooker can sit and recuperate behind Ryan Tannehill and take over the starting job in 2024. And that's the mock. Let me know in the comments section what you thought. Thanks for watching and peace out.